In the Gospels of the Bible, we find several accounts of Jesus Christ performing miracles that demonstrate his power over the natural world. One of the most famous and captivating of these miracles is when Jesus walked on water. This incredible display of divine power has captured the imagination of believers and non-believers alike for centuries. But what is the significance of this miracle? What can it teach us about the nature of Jesus Christ and the scope of his authority? In this video, we will dive into the biblical accounts of Jesus walking on water and explore the deeper meaning behind this supernatural event. Through examining the context, the details, and the implications of this miracle, we will gain a greater appreciation for Jesus' power over nature and what that reveals about his true identity. The Gospel accounts of Jesus walking on water are found in Matthew 14, Mark 6, and John 6. Each of the synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, provide their own unique perspective on this remarkable miracle, while John's account adds additional details that the others omit. The story unfolds after Jesus had been teaching large crowds and performing healings throughout the region of Galilee. On this particular occasion, Jesus had sent his disciples ahead of him across the Sea of Galilee while he dismissed the crowds and went up on a mountainside to pray. As night fell, the disciples found themselves being battered by strong winds and waves in the middle of the lake. They were struggling to make headway against the storm. Then, as the fourth watch of the night approached, between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., the disciples saw a figure walking on the water towards them. "It's a ghost," they cried out in terror. But Jesus immediately called out to them, "Take courage. It is I, don't be afraid." It was then that Peter, one of the 12 disciples, spoke up and said, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," Jesus replied. And so Peter got out of the boat and began walking on the water towards Jesus. For a brief moment, Peter's faith enabled him to defy the laws of nature and walk on the surface of the churning waves. But then, as he took his eyes off Jesus and became distracted by the storm raging around him, Peter's faith faltered and he began to sink. "Lord, save me," he cried out. Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" As Jesus and Peter climbed back into the boat, the wind died down. The disciples who had witnessed this incredible display of power were left in awe, proclaiming, "Truly you are the Son of God." This narrative of Jesus walking on water is a profound and multifaceted miracle. On the surface, it demonstrates Jesus' mastery over the natural elements, his ability to suspend the laws of physics and walk on top of a raging sea. But upon closer examination, we discover that this miracle points to much deeper spiritual realities about the identity and mission of Jesus Christ. First and foremost, the walking on water miracle reveals Jesus' divine nature and authority. By defying the very forces that govern the physical world, Jesus is revealing himself to be more than just a mere human. He is operating outside the normal constraints of nature, which is a clear indication of his supernatural, divine power. Throughout the Gospels, Jesus performs a wide variety of miracles, healing the sick, casting out demons, controlling the weather, and even raising the dead. These miracles are not simply parlor tricks or random displays of power. Rather, they are intentional revelations of Jesus' true identity as the Son of God. The Gospels make it clear that Jesus is no ordinary man. He is the long-awaited Messiah, the incarnate Son of the living God. And his mastery over the natural world is a tangible demonstration of his divine authority. As the creator of all things, Jesus has power and dominion over every aspect of the physical realm. This is why the disciples are so awestruck when they witness Jesus walking on the water. They recognize that this is no mere mortal before them, but the very Son of God. Their exclamation, "Truly you are the Son of God," is a profound declaration of Jesus' true identity. But the walking on water miracle also speaks to Jesus' mission and purpose. Throughout the Gospels, we see Jesus repeatedly exercising his authority over the forces of nature. He calms storms, multiplies loaves and fishes, and even raises the dead. These miracles are not just random displays of power, but rather concrete signs that point to Jesus' role as the Messiah and Savior of the world. In the Old Testament, the God of Israel is frequently depicted as having power and dominion over the natural elements. He is the one who parts the Red Sea, provides water from a rock, and controls the weather. By walking on water, Jesus is associating himself with this same divine authority. He is declaring himself to be the fulfillment of the Old Testament promises, the Messiah who has come to rescue and redeem his people. But Jesus' mission goes even further than that. His mastery over the natural world is not just a sign of his divinity, but also a metaphor for his ability to overcome the spiritual forces that hold humanity captive. Just as he can command the wind and the waves, so too can he triumph over the powers of sin, death, and the devil. In a sense, the walking on water miracle is a foreshadowing of Jesus' ultimate victory on the cross. Through his death and resurrection, Jesus will conquer the greatest storms that threaten humanity, the forces of evil, darkness, and eternal separation from God. Just as he reaches out his hand to pull Peter from the raging waves, so too will Jesus reach out and rescue all who call upon him from the destructive power of sin. This is why the walking on water miracle is so significant. It is not just a random miraculous event, but a powerful revelation of who Jesus is and what he has come to accomplish. By demonstrating his mastery over the natural world, Jesus is declaring his authority as the Messiah and Savior. And in doing so, he is inviting all who will trust in him to step out in faith and walk with him, even in the midst of life's greatest storms. Of course, the walking on water narrative also contains an important lesson about the nature of faith. When Peter steps out of the boat and begins walking towards Jesus, he is doing something that defies the very laws of physics. He is, for a brief moment, transcending the normal constraints of the physical world through the power of his faith. But then, as Peter takes his eyes off Jesus and becomes distracted by the raging wind and waves around him, his faith falters and he begins to sink. This is a vivid illustration of the importance of keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. Too often, we allow the storms and difficulties of life to overwhelm us, causing our faith to waver and our resolve to crumble. But the walking on water miracle reminds us that if we keep our eyes on Jesus, even the most impossible situations can be overcome. Just as Jesus reached out his hand to catch Peter, he is always ready and willing to rescue us when our faith falters. All we need to do is cry out to him in our moment of need, and he will be there to steady us and lift us up. This is the powerful truth at the heart of the walking on water miracle. It is a dramatic display of Jesus' divine authority, but it is also a profound lesson about the nature of faith and the unwavering love and power of our Savior. As we grapple with the storms and trials of our own lives, may we be encouraged by this timeless story. May we be reminded that no matter how overwhelming the circumstances may seem, Jesus is always there, ready to stretch out his hand and pull us from the raging waves. All he asks is that we keep our eyes fixed on him and step out in faith, trusting in his all-sufficient grace. In conclusion, the biblical account of Jesus walking on water is a profound and multifaceted miracle that reveals deep truths about the nature and mission of Christ. By defying the laws of nature and walking on the surface of a raging sea, Jesus is declaring his divine authority and his identity as the Son of God. This miracle is not just a random display of power, but a tangible sign that points to Jesus' role as the long-awaited Messiah and Savior of the world. Through his mastery over the natural elements, Jesus is foreshadowing his ultimate victory over the spiritual forces that hold humanity captive. At the same time, the walking on water miracle also teaches us a vital lesson about the nature of faith. When we keep our eyes fixed on Jesus and trust in his power, even the most impossible situations can be overcome. But when we allow the storms of life to distract and overwhelm us, our faith can falter, causing us to sink beneath the waves. In the end, the walking on water miracle is a powerful reminder of the boundless love and unwavering grace of our Savior. No matter how great the storm, no matter how deep the waves, Jesus is always there, ready to reach out his hand and pull us to safety. All he asks is that we step out in faith and keep our eyes fixed on him. May this iconic moment in the life of Jesus inspire us to walk in greater trust and obedience, knowing that with him, even the impossible becomes possible. For truly, Jesus is the Son of God, the Master of nature, and the Savior of the world.